TJ with Tech Made Easy. Welcome to the channel. So about a month and a half ago, and depending on when you're watching this, there were some YouTubers that did a $300 PC challenge for the 3080, the NVIDIA RTX 3080. I thought that was interesting. I thought, well, I have a computer that's a $300 computer. What would happen, or what results would I get if I threw my card into that computer? And I hope you stay for the whole thing. I'm not going to tell you the hardware until after you see the results, because I think the hardware and the results are going to be very surprising. So let's go ahead, take a look at those results and the hardware, and I think that you'll be really surprised at what this $300 computer has to offer when running a 3080.
Okay, so let's go over the parameters of the competition. So a whole bunch of tech YouTubers got together and they made some rules. They wanted to build a $300 system to put the RTX 3080 in. Okay, so those rules were is that they had to build the system. They couldn't buy anything pre-built. They could still buy used parts, and then it had to be $300 or less. And then in order to they chose certain games and applications to measure the performance of the systems. And so what they chose is they chose Cinebench R20, and they were scoring the single core score, the multi-core score. They wanted to do Time Spy, and then games Rainbow Six Siege, Tomb Raider, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, Final Fantasy benchmark. They wanted to run that one. And then going over here to Blender, they wanted to see how efficient the machines would be. The CPU itself would be in rendering two pictures. One is the BMW and one's the Fuzzy Cat. And so that's how they were determining the scoring here. Now there was another YouTuber that they collaborated with that would judge their systems. I'm not judging the systems based upon the way he did it, because he's also doing it on aesthetics, what the system looked like with performance. I'm going off of just pure raw numbers. And so what I'm doing here, just to get a baseline, is all of these games and utilities here. The higher the number, then the better it is. So I'm adding these up to a total here. Now Blender, I can't add to this because Blender was based upon the lowest score, and this is seconds here. And so in order for me to find a winner here, I'm then subtracting the lowest score from this highest score, and then that gives me basically a baseline to judge these systems. Now I just want to say something really quick. Not all of these tools or utilities, you can't always use these tools and utilities to indicate how well a system is going to play video games. In other words, look at Greg Salazar here. He has a pretty high single core. He has the highest multi-core, and he has the highest Time Spy score. But if you look at his gameplay, Rainbow Six Siege obviously is high. He's higher. He's okay here. But if you look at Tech by Matt, and he's got some decent scores here too. He's kind of got better scoring here. Anyway, these utilities are great to measure the system, but they're not necessarily the end all on how your system is going to perform during playing PC games. So that's how I'm judging my system, is by the total of these scores. I personally would have liked to have seen them play some other videos. Now, Rainbow Six Siege, they ran in 1080p ultra high mode. Lara Croft Tomb Raider, they ran in 1080p ultra high setting as well. And then they went in and turned ray tracing on to ultra. The ray tracing is going to push the card and push the processor. And that's why, if we take a look at Coalition Gaming, his score is here is pretty low because he chose a Xeon that just really couldn't compete in this process. It was the Xeon E5 20 or the Xeon E5 1650 version 1, and it's just an older chip. It's just not. It is a 6-core, but it just can't keep up with what some of the other guys like Tech by Matt. He actually got a really good deal, and I don't remember what all of them are running on an i5. But it's a nicer i5, and that's one reason why he did so well. And then one of these here, I can't remember which one, did a Ryzen 1600, which is a very nice chip. And then Ozzy Talks, he may have had also a Xeon, I can't remember. So some of these you'll notice are really low in the scoring. The other thing that some of these systems, well, every single tech person, oh, by the way, if you want to see their builds, if you're watching this, you may have already seen it, but if you want to see their builds and their results, how they came to building their system, I do have links down below where you can watch all theirs. So let's just go ahead and again, I just want to mention, because of their $300 constraint, a lot of them, where they cut corners was in the hard drive. They didn't do SSDs, or they did a very small SSD, and they all had hard drives. But that point being made, all of them said that they would never recommend a $300 system for the RTX 380. Now, for some of these systems, I would agree. There's a couple I'm like, well, you could maybe get away with it. I would like to see the games and compare them to other and compare them. But one of the things you got to realize here is that, you know, a lot of times your video card is your most important thing, and then your CPU. So you could get by with maybe Tech by Matt and maybe one of these others here with it, but again, you may not get you're not going to get the best performance. You're not going to get the ultimate performance out of the 380. So in some ways, they're right. So let's go ahead and look at the system now. I want you to stay through the whole thing, because you are going to be really surprised at the hardware that I'm testing to get the results I'm getting. So be patient. We'll get to the hardware, but let's get to the test results. So the Cinebench R20, I have a multi-core score of 4075, 298, and a single core score. And again, I blued out the system, because it shows all the system hardware here. But obviously I did really well in Blender at 471 seconds. That is really good. And I forgot to say that in Blender they took the minutes of the BMW and Fishy Cat and converted them to seconds. So then Final Fantasy, again, it was on the highest mode that you could get in 1080p, and I got 10,592. And then Time Spy, 13,138. Rainbow Six Siege, 316, and Lara Croft Tomb Raider, average of 99. And so you will notice that my system did fairly decent against theirs. But again, stick it around for the results. I'm going to add in 2 more systems here, and you'll see why I'm adding these other 2 systems in here. They didn't do as well as this top system here of mine, but they still did a pretty good job, especially compared to down here. And I'm not so much concerned about this. Obviously, this is a high score for the multi-score, and that's one of the reasons why my system came on top here. But not only that, it did very well in the gaming as well. High marks here for the gaming. But I'm going to talk, these other systems are going to become more relevant as we go along. So let's get to the hardware. Now again, they're building a $300 system to see how it performed with an RTX 3080. So a total of a $1,000 gaming system. Again, they didn't recommend that anyone put those systems together. It was more out of fun. But let's take a look at the hardware that was in my systems. Now, I'm like almost the rest of the world. I do not have an RTX 3080. So I had to run my test with my RTX 2080 Ti. So that's right. These scores here are with my RTX 2080 Ti. And again, I want you to look at the comparisons here. Now, I would really love to put an RTX, and I'll get into the hardware that I'm using in these systems too, the components other than the video card. I would love to have an RTX 3080 to throw into these systems to see how they would perform. And this is the whole thing too. This is a difference too, is that these three systems here, I would not necessarily have a hard time or making a decision that these three systems here, you could go ahead and put the 3080 into them and use them as a gaming system, especially these top two. This one right here is borderline, okay? But over here you can see what the processors are. Two of these are X99, which take the Xeon 2600 and 1600 version 3s. The X79s take the Xeons 2600 version 1, version 2, and the 1600 version 1, version 2. So let's break down these systems to see what's in them. Or first of all, I'm just going to go over the games here. So I just again want to reemphasize I'm using the 2080 here, and I'm more concerned about the game results and not necessarily the other utility results that they had. So with the 2080, very respectable against the competition here, using the RTX 3080. That's why I'd really love, in fact, if there's anyone out there that would like to lend me a 3080, it'd be great, or as soon as I can get one, I will redo these tests to see where these systems come in at. But let's look at Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Now, Lara Croft Tomb Raider did really well. And this is the thing about Lara Croft Tomb Raider and what they decided to test it in. Because they were at the ultra high mode, it wasn't just that they were ultra high mode, but they had decided that they wanted to do turn on the RTX or the tracing up to ultra, and that's what caused a lot of these CPUs to really heavily bottleneck, because once you turn ray tracing on, that is very GPU intensive, but it also is CPU intensive at the same time. And so that's why these ones here, they got 53. It's because the CPUs were a major bottleneck. And you'll notice the CPUs here on the 2080 were not so much bottleneck, and they competed against these ones over here. And so let's look at the pricing of these systems. Now, the reason why I included these two systems here is that this system here, let me just talk about these Xeons for a minute. These Xeons here are kind of my top gaming Xeons. So they are not your $20 Xeons. Okay, you're going to pay. You still get a great deal on them, but I would say a premium budget pricing for a gaming system. And I'll go over those in a minute. But let's go look at the system price. So in this one here, the system price is $425, and what really makes that jump up is the cost of this CPU. But this is an excellent CPU. And then our next system here is $340 now. And then our next system here is $315, which is the X79. Now, let me just talk real quick here. I didn't use the same constraints they did. I wasn't trying to go out and build a system. I already had systems in place that I could pop the card in, my 2080 in, and test them out. I just wanted to see what could I really do with a system that was $300 or close to $300. And obviously these first two are closer to $300 than this top system here. But I would consider running, I would definitely run the 3080 in these top two systems, without a doubt. The third one here, maybe, I mean, you could still do it. I mean, I'd want to see the results. Now, when I was talking about ray tracing before, most people running the 3080, the RTX 3080, I would assume are going to be at least doing 2K gaming along with 4K gaming. Once you get into 2K gaming and 4K gaming, then the GPU is having to do a lot more work. And so as long as you have a decent CPU, you're going to get pretty good frame rates in 2K and 4K. You don't have to have the latest and greatest CPU to run the RTX 3080. But anyway, my point is that there are still systems out there where you don't have to pay $400 or $500 for a processor to get the performance out of the RTX 3080. So let's just go ahead. I'm going to just talk about these three CPUs for a sec. So the E5 2667, and I'm not saying that there aren't others that perform nice in gaming. I just found that this one has a slight edge over the others because the 2690 version 2 in the X79 platform is also a great chip. Games really, really well. I would use I wouldn't hesitate using the 3080 with that as well. But this one just has a slight edge over it. In fact, I'm going to be having so in 2021, sometime at the new year, I'm going to be putting out a Xeon. I'm going to be testing a whole bunch of Xeons, the version 2s and the version 3s. They are still relevant in gaming. It all depends on what card you're running, and so, but to go on with these. So this is an 8-core, 16-thread, 3.3 gigahertz, 4.0 turbo. The E5 2660 version 3, 10 cores, 20 threads, 2.6 gigahertz, 3.3 turbo. Now, if any of you have ever watched anything on some of these Xeon tests, a lot of them will test the 2678. I do have a 2678, but this CPU has an edge over it. The 2678 is a 12 core, so 24 thread, but that doesn't matter. Gaming, this one outperforms it. So this E5 2690 V3, 12 core, 24 threads. This is a beast of a CPU. All of these CPUs are great for gaming, but also great for productivity work, for content creation. So they're kind of the cream of the crop. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't better than this. The E5 2698 is a great chip. It almost matches the 2690, but the 2690 just pulls a little bit ahead of the E5 2698. But as far as a production CPU, content creation, the 2698 is a great CPU. So let's go into the pricing here. So what I'm using here now, I'm not using any of the E5 1600s in these, and the reason why, they tend to be more expensive, especially when you get to the version 2 and version 3. You can overclock them, but I'm using systems that I can't overclock with. I do have a Chinese board that will allow me to do a turbo unlock. I haven't put that system together yet and tested it yet. That's coming in 2021 also. But as far as the HP, this E5 2667 version 2 is running in the HP Z420. Again, it's X79 platform. Now on the used hand market, eBay and others, you can get these for $150, including shipping and handling. And most of the time they come with RAM. At least 16 gigs of RAM is typical. sometimes 32. Occasionally you'll see 8 gigs, but most of them do come with 16 gigs of RAM. This one came with 16 gigs of DDR3 RAM, 1600, and it was quad channel. It had 4 gigabytes of RAM in it, so I'm running it at quad channel here. So that's why there's no price here. A lot of times they don't come with a CPU that I would use, so I usually swap out the CPU. But I do have a video on getting into AAA gaming at 60 frames per second or higher in high and ultra high mode for $330. That includes the complete system, the system and video card. Where this system here is 315. Again, the other system is really for an entry-level system to get into AAA gaming at 60 frames per second or higher. But like I said, the other guys, none of them, I don't think any of them had a 500 gig SSD because it made the build too expensive. They usually bought like a $10 hard drive to put their games on. But this E5 2667 is kind of spendy, but still for $315, you have a system here that can run almost every card out there. Particularly if you're looking at the 2080, the 2080 Super, and anything below that, the 5700, the RX 5700 AMD and lower, it'll run all those cards. I'm not saying, again, this is a system I'm questioning, would you want to put the 3080 in here? You could run the 3080 in here. It's not going to get as good a performance as the other two systems I talked about, but you could. So technically, you could run a 2080 Ti and above. Now, as far as the new ones go, right now I'm talking about the 3080, but this system could definitely throw in you could definitely throw in the 3070. Now the 3070 is on the same line as a 2080 Ti. So the 3070 is a maybe, just if you want to get the most performance out of it. But you can still run that in here. And of course, a 3060 you can run in here all day long. It's not going to affect the performance. So this is a great system for $315. You can't boot off of an NVMe drive or an M.2 drive, but you can install games on the drive. It will recognize it in the PCI slot as a hard drive, but just not a bootable hard drive. So let's go on to the next system here. So the next system here is the E5 2660V3 HP. This is the HP Z440, the X99 platform. There's a vendor out there that's selling these for, this includes shipping and handling, for $165 shipping and handling. Now it doesn't come with a CPU or RAM, so I had to buy RAM. So you can get 16 gigs of RAM, DDR4, 2133 megahertz in quad channel for $50. Again, the 500 gig hard drive, $50, and this chip, great price on this chip, $75, puts the system at $340. Again, this is an awesome system for $340. You can run every card in here that you want to. This comes with, oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, the Z420s come with 600 watt power supplies. If I really was serious about running an RTX 2080 Ti in that system, I might swap out the power supply to maybe a 700 or 800 watt power supply. If I was to do even the 3080. But this one here comes with the 700 watt power supply. These are great systems. I mean, you don't have the bling of a new system, but I still think they look great. They're sleek. They're clean looking. And so let's go on to the next system. This again is one of my favorite chips here. And of course, all the pricing is the same here until we get down to the CPU. This is a $160 CPU. Now I do realize that once we get over $100, there are other choices of Intel and AMD or i7s that you can buy. But this system here, to have 12 cores, 24 multi-threads, at $425, this is an awesome system. This is a great video editing system along with a gaming system with this CPU. Awesome system. And one thing I failed to mention, yes, you can buy these motherboards today. You can buy the Chinese ones. Like I said, I do have one. I just haven't put it together. You can buy the X79. Those ones you can boot off of an M.2 drive. But if you can get these systems for $165, which this one right here you can still get, the Z420 comes in version 2, version 1. Version 2 runs both version 1 and version 2. The version 2 is a little harder to find at $150, but if you're patient, you can find them. One thing about eBay, if you just put that you like or are watching a system, a lot of times the owner sends you if they don't have in there make an offer, they will send you an offer. And so I've actually gotten some that way, where I just click on that I like and I wait for them to send over an offer if I can't find one. But regardless, the Z420s, I'm kind of backing up here to the Z420s because I forgot to mention the pricing on those. Obviously, people sell them for more than $150, but if you're patient, you can get them for $150. It's a lot easier to find a Z420 version 1 for $150, but again, you're limited to the version 1 chips. And in today's world, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I would say, version 1s are okay, but today you really need, for gaming, you really need it to be in the version 2. You can game with the version 1s, and I will have some version 1s in my comparisons, but your longevity is just going to be better with a version 2 and especially a version 3 on these Xeons. So great system, awesome system. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm throwing a fourth system in here. Again, somewhat competitive here with these. Now again, I don't know what it would be like if I was to run the RTX 3080. Again, this third system here, questionable whether you would want. You could run a 3080 in it. Your performance is, you're not going to, you might be bottlenecking somewhat. But this fourth system here, the reason why I put this fourth system in here for you to look at is, if you're not planning on running a 3080 or a 2080 Ti, this system will also run almost all the other cards. I mean, it'll run a 3060, it'll run the 2070s, the 2080s, the 2080 Supers. This is a great system for $245. So it's a great deal. If again, this is a really good entry-level CPU. The reason why this is at $245 is this CPU is $45. If someone was really looking to get in gaming and the money is really an issue, this is a great system here. But like I said, I do have my other video where it's a complete system with the video card for $350. AAA gaming at 60 frames per second or higher in high or ultra high mode. So that's kind of the wrap on this. I hope that was somewhat interesting, and my whole purpose of this also is I want people to see that there is life left in the Xeons. So I've been a Xeon fan for a really long time, and part of the reason why is I don't just do gaming. I have a Plex system, so I rip a lot of videos, so I'm compressing those videos with Handbrake. So in fact, one of my systems, I have the Xeon 2690 version 2, but it's a dual system that I use for compressing my videos. And then I do use the 2690 for my Windows machine, and they're just, again, but these are more the high-end systems. That's why they're costing more money. They're not your $20 Xeon CPU. That you're pushing them to the very brink to perform in gaming, especially with higher end cards. So anyway, I just hope that was interesting. Open your eyes to the Xeon world if you don't think you can still game on Xeons. I appreciate these guys doing this competition. It was interesting to watch them and see how the competition ended up concluding. But anyway, this is TG with Tech Made Easy. Please subscribe to the channel for my upcoming videos, and like the video, share it, and hit the bell notification. Have a great day. Happy gaming.